You are now live.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Brian Moffitt, and I would like to welcome you to the meeting of the Asheville Downtown Commission for October 14th, 2022. The Asheville Downtown Commission was created by the City Council for the sustainability and continued development of downtown, a vital urban center of Western North Carolina's economic, cultural, and visitor activity. The Downtown Commission provides City Council with recommendations on downtown policies and initiatives. In addition, downtown commissioners currently fill 4 out of 9 seats of the city's Design Review Committee, which reviews development projects within the Central Business District, the River Arts District, and hotel projects outside of those areas. The Downtown Commission also has the opportunity to provide input on projects outside of the scope of design review. All committee members and staff are continuing to participate virtually. We are streaming live on our Virtual Engagement Hub, which is accessible through the Virtual Engagement Hub link on the front page of the city website and also linked on the committee page. We have an option for the public to listen live by phone, and for anyone out there today with us, welcome. This time I will go through and introduce all the committee members who are participating. You folks know the drill. Please make sure to mute your microphone if you are not speaking. When you have a question or would like to speak, unmute your microphone. And remember to remute your microphone when you are done speaking. Committee members, as I call your name, please say a quick hello. Andrew Fletcher, Vice Chair.
Good morning.
Good morning. Tal Frankfurt.
Good morning.
Good morning. Kimberly Hunter.
Hey, everybody.
Did Stephen Lee Johnson get a chance to log in? I didn't see him. Dana, is he here? No. Okay. I am here. Robin Rains.
Good morning.
Good morning. Megan Rogers.
Morning.
Good morning. I don't think I saw Guillo, did I? Guillermo Rodriguez. Okay. Ricardo Sejo.
Good morning.
Ruth Summers is not able to attend. Sage Turner, our City Council liaison.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Thank you. All right. I will start the committee agenda items to help our audience follow along. I will state each section of the agenda aloud, and we will do a vocal roll call for each vote. Committee members, try to raise your hand to speak, and I'll do my best to keep up. All right. So with that, we will move into our approval of the minutes. You should have had a chance to review the draft action minutes from our August 12th meeting. Oh, by the way, welcome back, Dana. Are there any revisions, corrections, alterations to the action minutes of our August 12th meeting? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve. Megan.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. This is going to be a fast meeting, I can tell. We're all awake. So we have a motion by Megan and a second by Robin. I will go through the roll call. Andrew?
Aye.
Thank you. Tal?
Aye.
Kimberly?
Aye.
Thank you. I am an aye. Robin?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Ricardo?
Aye.
And Sage?
Aye.
Thank you. That motion passes. I don't think we'll do public comment as we get there. I'm not aware of any current public comment on anything, correct? Not really.
That's correct. No public comment.
Okay. We're going to make a slight adjustment in our new business schedule. We're going to go ahead and do our remote in-person meeting discussion first before our project review of the Aston and Sawyer microhousing to make sure that we get that before anyone has to jump off. I think Sage had to jump off a little early. I was hoping Stephen Lee was going to be here. I think as you should have seen in the advisory board, the City Council has adopted a remote meeting policy for all council appointed advisory boards. And so this goes into effect on October 30th. So this is our meeting to make our vote. The default will be to go back to fully in-person meetings. And if we wish to hold to continue to hold remote meetings, we can do so, but we would need 8 positive votes for that. If I'm doing my math correctly, it needs to be a 2/3 supermajority, basically a 2/3 vote of our 11 current members. Any quick discussion on that? We've been doing this together for quite a while remotely. There are positives, pros and cons, I guess, for both. From my perspective, I think remote meetings allow public participation and comment for a lot of people who wouldn't be able to travel to these meetings as far as the public goes. We are not currently set up to do hybrid meetings. So if we went to fully in-person meetings, that kind of public participation would be limited. In other words, we do not currently have the capacity, staff, technology to do a hybrid in-person and remote meeting, is my understanding. So any quick discussion or thoughts on that?
Is there room to do a hybrid, like in person, maybe every 3 meetings or every 4 meetings, or does it have to be?
So the way what City Council voted is that the default will be for this, and if we would voted to go remote, it would be that way for a year, if I remember that correctly.
That's correct.
That is for the next 12 months, and then we would make we'd have to do another vote at that time if we were going to stay. I saw a hand. Go ahead, Dana.
That's me. Yeah, that's correct. We could hold in person, or we could hold special meetings that could be different than what you all decided to do for the next year. Those have to be noticed well in advance, and it should, ideally be for a special purpose to change the format of that meeting, but that is possible.
So you could, I think, Tally, you could vote to do a remote and then a vote if you had a special meeting to do that in person or something like that. So I personally, I'll go ahead and put my cards on the table. I would like to see you. I think there's a ton of information that is missed, even doing video chat versus in person. And I would appreciate being able to be in person, but I personally believe that the positives to the public outweigh our ability to meet in person. That's my take on it. It makes it easier for people to attend and view and then participate. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you. I do think that the work of the commission is better done when we're all in the same room together. But until those types of meetings are just as open and accessible as these types of meetings, then I want to stay the course with public accessibility. And, if we need to have a retreat and need to work in person over the winter, I hope to, I hope that's, of course, possible as a special arrangement. So I'm supportive of staying the course with virtual for now.
Thank you. I can't tell who went. Well, I can press a button. I think Megan and then Kimberly.
If we went to in person, would the meetings be live streamed or recorded?
The meetings would not be live streamed. They very likely would be recorded and posted.
Kimmy, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I agree. One of the things that I think could help us determine special meetings is any projects where seeing the materials, because I prefer absolutely to meet remotely because of public needs, and that's hands down. I'm not going to vote differently. I will say one of the aspects that has gone missing, I know we don't review a lot of projects for materials. DRC does that and officially does that work. But sometimes I think when it's a bigger project and there's more stakeholders involved and more components, it could be a good use of that special special meeting that gets noticed ahead of time. So I just want to earmark that because that's an aspect I think that really was valued in the past. And we do lose a lot of details that were just physically present in our other environment. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Any other folks want to chip in on this? Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and make a motion. I think I'm allowed to do that. That the Downtown Commission, in accordance with the City Council's remote meeting policy, adopt a policy to continue to hold remote meetings for the next 12 months, and that we would work towards having special meetings as appropriately advertised, and for the appropriate purpose be in person.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Megan. All right, I will go through the roll call. Andrew.
Aye.
Thank you. Tal.
Aye.
Kimberly.
Aye.
I'm an aye. Robin.
Aye.
Megan.
Aye.
Ricardo.
Aye.
And Sage.
Aye. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. That was good. I appreciate your understanding on that. Okay, we will move to the next item of business, which is project review for Aston and Sawyer microhousing. And I think Will's going to make that presentation. And I believe the applicant is here to answer some questions as well. I think I saw Brian log on.
Thanks, Brian. That is correct. Good morning, everyone. Will Palmquist with Planning and Urban Design. I'm the staff person reviewing this project, so I'll be giving a brief overview of it and helping to facilitate any discussion. Brian Cook, the architect working on the project, is here with us today, as well as perhaps some other folks from the project team to answer questions as well. And this project is scheduled for review at next Thursday's Design Review Committee meeting. So any comments that you all want to provide will be summarized and presented to that committee for their consideration as well. So this project, known as Aston and Sawyer Microhousing, is located between Aston and Sawyer Streets. It's kind of in a interesting area of downtown where you have a lot of surface parking buildings, a lot of county office and parking deck uses. You can see the site outlined here in the hatching is kind of an interesting shape that sits higher on Aston Street and then has retaining walls on the south side of the property. It's 2 parking lots currently, and then with an existing 1-story building that's being proposed to be renovated. You can see some of the surrounding uses like Aston condominiums to the east, county building to the north, and a church as well on Aston Street. Let's see here. Here are just some views kind of giving a sense of kind of the urban design that's going on there, which is kind of in a transition, a little bit of an edge of downtown that hopefully this project can help kind of fold this area a little more back into the downtown fabric. Let's go to the site plan. So what's being proposed is 2 new 7-story buildings outlined here in this orange color to the north, on the northeast of the site, and then the southwest of the site. So the buildings are pretty much the same height. Building A or Aston Street building is bigger overall, has 159 microhousing units of the 231 being proposed. And then building B on Sawyer Street has 72 units. And then you can see the existing building located here that'll be renovated and used for some kind of commercial space with some kind of plaza seating area located to the north on Aston Street. So yeah, just to, I guess, back up a little bit, what's being proposed between these buildings is 231 called micro housing projects. It's similar to the Hilliard micro flats, I think the project was called, where you have these efficiency units and they have a living area and a bathroom, but not a kitchen. And then each floor has a communal kitchen and living lounge space for congregating. And that's kind of a way to, obviously keep the rents lower. There's not necessarily guaranteed affordability at certain income ranges with the project, but market driven approach to providing more attainable housing at better price points than typical studio or one bedroom apartments that have kitchens and bathrooms as well. So this is a level 2 project. It's just under 100,000 square feet, which is the threshold for those types of projects in the downtown. So it'll be a mandatory review, voluntary compliance at DRC, and then a ministerial review at Planning and Zoning Commission to confirm that they meet all the requirements of the CBD zoning district. They're proposing to subdivide the properties into 3 lots, which won't really affect the review of the project except in regards to tree canopy preservation. So they have that parceled out by lot as well. Go down to the elevations. They're down here. Oh, here's the landscaping plan. So it's pretty minimal in the CBD as far as what kind of landscaping is required. It mostly just consists of street trees, which you can see here proposed along Aston Street with the rebuilt sidewalk and tree grates, and then along Sawyer Street as well. And then for tree canopy preservation, they have a couple trees kind of in this courtyard area behind Building A, and that I think covers about half of the requirement. And then fee in lieu is proposed for the other half. So here are the floor plans. I'll just zoom in on one of them. I think they're fairly typical for each floor. So you kind of get a sense of how the units are arranged. And then you have this like kitchen and lounge space on each floor, as well as some storage space for residents. And I think that's pretty typical for each floor and relatively between the buildings as well. So this is the Aston Street facing building, which is a little more linear. Here's the facade facing Aston Street. I should note also, kind of an interesting aspect of the project is that the CBD zoning district does not require any off-street parking, and no off-street parking is being proposed with this project. And they are proposing, although it's not required, obviously bicycle parking and other amenities to bolster that as a transportation option. So I don't think we get many projects downtown that don't have parking. So that's kind of an interesting and frankly kind of exciting aspect of the project. There's a materials board, so I'm going to talk about materials right now, but kind of get a sense of the layout of the building, how it works in the hillside, the different kind of bays and massing, kind of a lower, I guess, podium, for lack of a better word, with a different kind of arrangement, staggered windows above. And then as you turn the corner, what's on the right here is kind of I guess that would be the west elevation, if I'm not mistaken, shown here. Okay. Right, so that's the west elevation, south elevation here, demonstrating that they do meet the opening requirements for windows and other openings for the CBD form code requirements. The building's not on a primary pedestrian street, so it doesn't have the enhanced requirements that some projects have. It is kind of split between the tallest height zone and intermediate height zones of the CBD, but it meets the requirements of both of those. So it is, obviously being in compliance with CBD zoning to stay as level 2, not have to get a conditional zoning or a variance of some kind. So this is the floor plan for the Sawyer Street facing building. You can see it's a much more kind of compact building, stairs and elevator in the center of the floor plan, with the units in the kitchen and lounge arranged around that central element. And then the primary Sawyer Street facade entrance and storefront shown here. You'll see it better in a couple of renderings, provided that the buildings obviously are kind of designed in tandem, so they borrow a lot of the same design features and elements are shared across the two buildings. Okay, on the right is the east elevation for the Sawyer Street building. The west elevation, and then on the left is the north elevation, which would kind of face more the interior of the site and kind of face that one-story warehouse building or garage building that will be more of a commercial use going forward. So I'll just share, show the renderings that were shared by the architect and some of the material boards. So this is the Aston Street building again. Get a better sense of some of the relief and dimensions being proposed. So as more of an elevation drawing on the left, and then more of a conceptual rendering. So you can kind of see how those upper stories are set back, which is some of the requirements in the CBD to help lessen the impact of taller buildings. Kind of see how that organizing feature works. I think I said earlier that it was a separate elevation, but it is the primary elevation. I heard a hand go up.
No, I just I put our draft impacts checklist in the chat just to remind everybody how what we're doing. Sorry, Will.
No, thanks, Brian. Yeah, so that's the main facade of the Aston Street northern building. Here it is looking west from Church Street, kind of down Aston Street. A view from Cox Avenue of the two buildings. So the Aston Street building on the left, and then the Sawyer Street building on the right, and you can kind of see that one-story garage space, commercial space with a kind of renovated plaza or courtyard in front of it. Here's a materials board that kind of corresponds to the colors on the renderings. So kind of a combination of fiber cement siding, a couple different colors, vertical corrugated metal panel in an orange-red color, and then some of the darker colors are either the dark gray brick, and then the metal aluminum storefront features. And then finally the Sawyer Street building in elevation view with the storefront on the left. And then the conceptual rendering of that elevation. You can kind of see how the corner element in the storefront kind of ties in those two different sides of the building as well. get a sense for how the projects are kind of designed in tandem. Similar materials being proposed. This one has some different coloring for the corrugated metal and metal panels. It also has metal sunshades proposed above the windows to give some obviously shade to occupants, and then some kind of horizontal relief and kind of interplay with the elevation. And then the building view from Sawyer Street, which kind of gives a good sense of how the proposed two buildings, the one on Sawyer Street and the one over here on Aston Street, kind of fit into the existing context and the public parking lot. Obviously will remain kind of in that center area, as that's not part of the project or owned by the applicant or anything. So I think I've hit on all the highlights. We have the applicant here with us today. We have the draft impacts checklist to help guide our conversations. So yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Real quick, Will, can you address the pedestrian connectivity between the two buildings, the little duct between that they did before the applicant gets on?
Yes, I know we talked about this a little bit during informal DRC. So there essentially this walkway would be proposed between the Aston Street building and the garage building, and then cut south, and that would provide access around the building. I think there might be access to the building directly from this elevation, if not around the building to the primary entrance. You have this courtyard feature for building A, but it really just kind of connects to itself. And then the retaining walls don't really allow, once someone's out here, they can't really hop the wall safely or anything. So they just kind of redirected back into the building. I think it's one challenging part of the site, is that it's the way the elevations and retaining walls work. It's not a traditional, or as usual, a flat block in downtown where the connectivity is very logical, perhaps, but that is kind of how it would work between the two buildings. And then obviously with new sidewalk on Sawyer and Aston Streets. I don't believe there's one proposed along the alley. You do have some loading access, so I would believe there's access on this side of the Sawyer Street building, so folks don't have to walk necessarily through the alley to get into that building if they had friends in the other building or whoever they were visiting and whatnot. But we can let the applicant maybe refine that. That is a good question.
Okay, well, thank you. Are there any questions for Will before we start discussing this with the applicant? Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, so I think this is a great example of what we can do without parking minimums for residential uses. So I'm really impressed with that. Could you talk a little bit about the parking minimum standard on this building? Because I think that's going to be one of the questions that the public would have about this.
Yeah, so there are no required parking minimums in the CBD district except for hotel uses. There are no hotels proposed with this project, so they are not required to provide any parking, and they aren't. I think that's kind of exciting and innovative and kind of bold, and I think it fits into kind of the model that they're following for the development, trying to keep costs relatively low so that units can be offered at market rate at a much more reasonable and affordable rate than a typical downtown 1 or 2 bedroom typical residential unit with garage structured parking, which drives up the cost exponentially for projects. So I think that's an interesting element of the project. And yeah, I'm no fan of parking minimums personally. Wouldn't mind them going away everywhere, but at least in the CBD, they don't exist for anything except for hotels. So I think that's one great thing that's helping to help this project happen.
And there's a the county parking garage is literally across the street. So there is parking available for this, if the residents needed something like that. But yeah.
It's a good point. Yep.
Any other questions for Will? Okay, I think Brian Cook, the architect representing the applicant, is on. Brian, do you want to kind of point out anything, or you want to just launch into discussion?
Yeah, I think first of all, Will, fantastic job presenting. I think you hit all the key details. Yeah, I just wanted to follow up with really just one of the recent questions you had about the connection between the two buildings. So that area between the two buildings is primarily intended for utility access. Unfortunately, we always got to have some location for transformers and generators and such. So it's primarily for utility, but we also did not want to just have a driveway. So we're going to try to pave and landscape that so that there is some connection between the two buildings. The buildings do not share any amenities. They each have their own amenities, solely within each building. But with the walkway, there is the opportunity for connection between the buildings, or even just if you're riding your bike and you're on Aston Street, you can cut through and come in the back and have direct access to where the bike room storage is. So that's the primarily kind of reason for that connection. There is not a direct connection from Aston to the left to the alley. It drops down a couple feet from that location, so there would not be a connection between the two streets or to the alley from without going through the building. But other than that, like I said, I think we'll kind of hit all the key points on the building, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Go ahead, Megan.
Hey, I was reading through a thread on Facebook about this project, and one question that folks had was, is there some type of mechanism in place that prevents any subleasing that would then prevent any short-term rental use? So if you could answer that.
Yeah, I mean, the owners of this, or the developers of this project, also will maintain and operate the building. They have they have over 12 other units across the country that are similar format, and they operate these, so they know how to operate them. That's part of the lease agreement. There's no subleasing. And as far as short-term rentals, I mean, that's not the intent either. It's these are long-term rentals.
Very good. Go ahead, Sage.
Thanks. While we were talking about parking a minute ago and the neighboring deck, I think that the Cox Avenue deck is the one the county is looking at for reduced worker rates. So I know that this developer in the other project was talking about this really being workforce housing. So the adjacency of that deck is complementary. So I thought I'd mention that. The only thing I wanted to mention, and I keep mentioning this throughout the design meetings for this particular area of downtown and anything that goes in it, with the nearby Rabbit location, everyone on Aston Street has reached out to the city at some point about noise. And I'm always trying to recommend that we update our guidelines. And one of the things I would like to see us do is recommend there's a rating of glass that is a little more soundproof. And I just want to put that out there so these developers know they may have tenants who are wishing they had better soundproof windows just because of the way the sound travels up that alley. I think that the street trees will help, but I wonder if some other considerations might help just for the sake of the tenants. Just kind of flagging a problem I've seen already from the nearby buildings.
It's also free concerts.
Oh yeah, not bashing it at all. I'm just saying, I think the residents in the Aston have been particularly upset about the noise, and I was encouraging them to upgrade their windows. And it might just be something to consider on some of those front windows.
It is. I thought someone else had a hand up. No? Okay, go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, Sage, that's a great point. But I think, going from a flat surface to, a more, a 7-story building, this may actually help the folks at Aston by sort of breaking up and baffling some of that sound, is what I'm hoping for. Also, new construction is I'm imagining that the windows in new construction are just going to be superior to the windows in the Aston, just because it's an older building. And I know that having lived with old windows during the transition to new modern windows made an absolutely huge difference. So I'm hoping that that this is a net positive for sound all around.
Thank you, Andrew. Go ahead, Robin.
Do we have, is this, I know that we have the microhousing project that's going to be built in the hotspot, but other than this, are there any existing microhousing units in Asheville yet? Or are these the first 2 projects?
I thought there was one in West Asheville that Harry Pilos did.
I think of this
And-
this size. Yeah, these are the only ones I'm aware of.
I thought that Harry Pilos' project was pretty similar. A West Asheville project up behind the Kmart Plaza.
Okay. I just didn't
But
know.
it's a newer model. It's definitely a newer model, and I don't know of any downtown. Some would say like some of the hotel conversions to housing. I like to remind people that we've actually never had a hotel or a housing complex become a hotel, but we've had lots of hotels become housing. So some of those older housing buildings, the Vanderbilt Battery Park, are kind of set up with these similar floor plans, but then they're connected to adjacent units. So they're micro in itself, but not intentionally built like.
Yeah, this could definitely go to a hotel if it's not successful as microhousing because the units don't have kitchens and things like that. I would have just wondered how successful, if we had any in Asheville, how successful they were.
Robin, to your point, on my council email, I've received a couple emails asking, is that really what's happening here? And perhaps it would behoove the public to know from staff, what would it look like for a apartment complex to approach becoming a hotel? Would it simply be the process as simple as designing and building one? What's that conversion potential look like?
It's a change of use at that point. I can go ahead and jump in just as an architect. When it's a change of use and it's that size of a change of use, it basically that's the trigger point at which it has to go back through the exact same process you would get for building new. So it would be reviewed. Think of when we've changed over. I just lost the name of the one that starts with a W. The little one, Robin, the little historic one over on.
Windsor.
Thank you. Yep, I knew it. I could see it, but I couldn't spell it. So when that building went through a change of use, they suddenly had to meet all the requirements for a small hotel.
So the parking would carry here.
This
basically.
one, yep, this one would trigger all the landscape, all the review, everything, similar to what happened with the Flatiron. When you do that, you trigger all of those requirements. So you'd have that up. Go ahead, Andrew.
Well, just to finish that thought, so I think that the parking requirement that the Flatiron was able to do, there's some rule in there that says, you can find spaces within 250 feet, I think. So then this Cox deck
500.
makes sense.
The
Reduce, but
UDO
just for the
was 500.
contextual, just for that, information for the public. So it would be a challenge for this thing to become a hotel. It would have to meet all of those hotel regulations, including parking and so on. That's all I wanted to make sure was clear. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah, Megan and Sage, you guys were asking the questions that I was asking about, potential hotel conversion and just, we've seen some projects that are seemingly try to do an end run around the intentions of our zoning plans and decision processes on this. And so this does not appear to be one of those. I'm happy to see that. And I do wish, Brian, like you're saying, those change of use from long-term rental to short-term rental, those protections in downtown seem robust. I wish our neighborhoods had the same protections when units, that may not have a 100,000 square foot footprint of a building in downtown, but certainly part of the fabric of a neighborhood when they switch from long-term rentals to short-term rentals. There's not a decision-making process around that is robustly protects those neighborhoods. So I think this is, again, an advantage that downtown has as far as looking at those changes of use on those buildings. And I wish that our neighborhoods were able to have a similar decision-making process when they see long-term units in their neighborhoods turn into short-term.
I'll just chime in briefly on that. I think just to clarify, any units being used for short-term vacation rentals are in violation of zoning unless it's a homestay provision, or unless they have some kind of special approval for it, which is not typical. So we have an enforcement process around that. It'd be like if someone wanted to start making, turn their house into a little mini factory, not allowed in the zoning code. It's treated in the same way. So I'll just say that if it is happening, there is no approval process, perhaps, that it went through because it's not operating legally, technically.
I'd like to just from as a DTC going through our checklist, I'm pretty excited about this project. To Robin's point, I hope it's a success. I don't know, we don't have a lot of these examples to know whether or not it will be, but I think the geography of this being more or less across the street from the bus station and a parking garage, and being kind of on the outskirts, but close to a lot of fun stuff, could attract the kind of tenants that I think these kind of things are going to need to be successful. So I'm from a parking multimodal, I'm excited. I think, this is the kind of essentially affordable housing, missing middle, starter kind of stuff that downtown needs. I appreciate a lot of what they've done in terms of the form of the building. I wish there was a little bit more pedestrian connectivity between the sites, but I think the topography makes that difficult. There's really no connectivity between those two lots right now. You have to hop a bunch of walls to get from one to the other. Nobody does that. I know that because I park on Aston every day. And then I think the balance of uses, I think, having tenants in this area is actually going to improve public safety for this area. I think it's a good use with downtown master plan. I'm not really, Jane Matthews not here, but I'm going to beat the no horizontal lap siding drum. I don't think that's a good material for this building, and I'd like to see something different, and I'll hit that again in design review if we get another shot at it. That's the balance of my comments. Robin, go ahead.
I agree with you about the lap siding. I had thought that already, but I just want to make one clarification, and this is just nitpicky from my perspective. I don't think we should be calling these affordable housing per se. It is going to be market rate for a very small footprint. So of course it's going to be more affordable because you've got a very small footprint that you're renting. So you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. That's the wrong nomenclature. But it's a price point that makes it that certain demographics can suddenly live in the city that couldn't otherwise. And so I'm excited about products like this.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Go ahead, Sage.
Sure. Let me see if I can get some video now that I'm not on the project floor. Okay. Hey, sorry. I was doing a project. So two things. One is, in 2017 or 2018, the Downtown Commission did some analysis on how many housing units it had downtown and how many hotel units it had downtown. I remember at the time it was split. Now we've had a lot of projects come online. I've been tracking it loosely and I'll update it officially, but I think these units put us back into like a 60-40 split with more residential than hotels. So we're moving in the right direction in that regard. I had one other point, but I believe I have forgotten it, so I will let it go. That's it.
Andrew.
And just to go talk back about parking, if the residents of these buildings were formerly commuters into downtown and they now move back into downtown and get to walk to work, whether, for whatever, so if they were, driving in, looking for parking, paying for parking, this hopefully, this type of project hopefully alleviates some of the greater regional traffic concerns, because when you get people that can walk to work rather than drive and park, then that's really good for everyone who's experiencing this town and trying and complaining about parking. It's so much, because we know that parking isn't just number of cars on the road, it's also average trip distance. So if we can cut those average trip distances down, get people close to living and working together with projects like this, I'm in support of that. And no kitchens in the units, it's also good for restaurants. So.
Go ahead, Kimberly.
Hey, Sage, I just want to acknowledge what you just said. I remember that report and update. And I think what you stated and the timeliness of what you stated is very critical when we think about long-term planning. That sometimes people, citizens, all of us get, in a kerfuffle about a specific unit, a specific item, a moratorium, of this, of that. And in the long stretch of 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, these incremental, not just tracking of what's happening, but these on and off again changes, whether, like I said, it's moratoriums or an increase in housing versus of hotels, it all plays a role. And so I just really want to acknowledge that you naming that right now in this moment, because that was 4 years ago, I think, is powerful, and why these committees matter, why working collectively matters, why thinking about the big picture while working on individual projects really matter. So I just want to thank you for saying that.
This has been a good discussion. I think, Brian, you should have heard at this point that the DTC is in broad agreement that they appreciate this project and are looking forward to its success. You've heard a couple little things here and there. Are there any other kind of advice or items that the DTC would like to see the applicant address, if possible, on this project as they move forward?
I'll reserve my comments for design review, but as far as the impacts and stuff, I think it's a home run.
And this is coming back to DRC, is that right, Will?
Yeah, excuse me, Thursday's DRC meeting.
Okay. I should have already known that. Sorry.
I haven't sent out the materials yet, so no worries.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, if there's no further questions, we don't really vote on these items, right, Will? I don't think so. I get turned around.
Yeah, that's correct. Your comments get forwarded along.
Okay, very good. So continue the path, and I look forward to seeing this project at DRC, and I really look forward to seeing the project get built, and I hope it's a big success.
All right. Thank you all.
All right, we'll move into our next item of business, which is the establishment of the Pack Square Plaza Visioning Subcommittee. Steph Dahl is going to address that, and I'm just going to turn it over to her, and then we can have a discussion.
Great. Thank you very much, Chair Moffett. If you just give me a moment, I am going to present. All of you know quite a bit about the Pack Square Plaza Visioning Project already, thanks to some updates that Dana and other staff have been providing to you. But today we actually have some considerations we'd like you to make regarding this project. But I am going to take a few moments to remind you of some things. So bear with me on this. I appreciate your patience. So the Pack Square Plaza Visioning Project is a project that will document the community's vision for a more equitable and inclusive Pack Square Plaza, which really is Western North Carolina's most prominent civic space. This area includes a site where the Vance Monument was previously located, and as you should know by now, I think, or everybody knows by now, this is an extension of the work that the Vance Monument Task Force did to recommend to the city and county that the Vance Monument should be removed from the area. In this project, we're not only looking at that very specific 900 square feet of former Vance Monument, but we're looking at the entire plaza and also physical and mental connections to the Block neighborhood just next door. I went through most of these things, but what I want you to take away from this slide, and it has some links on there so you can get to project materials, is that this really is a community engagement process. There's going to be some design involved in here, but we are not going to come out of this with a true capital project. This is to document a vision for the area. And we are looking at 5 specific things when we're talking about providing recommendations. Number 1 is, what are the top issues or ideas associated with repurposing that former Vance Monument area? It's not necessarily about replacing that monument with something else. It's about what should happen there. How do people want to feel when they see that area, and what should it look and act like? The second part is really about advancing equity and inclusion on Pack Square Plaza, both in the short and long term. That can look like anything from economic development opportunities to social mixing to opportunities for health advancement. The third part of this is guidance on a future design process for capital improvements in Pack Square, including making sure that we understand what a workable or feasible budget for our community would really look like when we're talking about wanting to do something in this area. So not a total design process, but a way for us to think about what should the next piece look like. So this is phased. And then noting that we really could look at public-private partnerships to support future improvements, including the way we operate it and the way that we manage the area, including the programming for the area. So right now, the onus for all of this is on the city. And you've heard Stephen Lee talk about this in these meetings, that in many cities, the best parks are going to be managed through a partnership. And then the last part is ideas to better connect Pack Square to the Block. And really, I met last night with the East End Valley Street neighborhood and also the African American Heritage Commission. And it was interesting. They really said it's really not just the Block because of its physical adjacency, but many of our neighborhoods that we want to connect Pack Square to. I think that is a great recommendation for us to use moving forward. And we've already been doing a lot of engagement. You guys are very familiar with Pack Square, so I probably don't need to tell you where that is. But what I will say is that even this map is incorrect as far as what our study area is, and it highlights how many people, including this map maker, do not realize or recognize how much of the space in front of the Biltmore building is actually public space and part of the city park. And when we're talking about the Block, this is the area that we're talking about. And you can see that there's corridors that reach out on the north end of the Block to the west and also to the north. And those corridors, many people walk right by and are unaware that they are within a 1-minute walk to one of North Carolina's most preeminent cultural institutions, the YMI, plus a host of other businesses and attractions, including the mural at Triangle Park, for example. So the project status, we do have a survey up, and we're encouraging you and people that you know to take it. We've had over 300 responses so far, so you can get to it. It's publicinput.com/Pack Square. Has a few questions on there that are going to help us really with this first phase, understand the basics of what people are thinking, why they actually come here, how often they come here, things like that. we released, we rolled out a temporary public art program that was guided heavily by the Public Art and Cultural Commission and have already seen 4 installations. There's another one on Saturday. So there's a big article about it in the Mountain Express if you want to check out that and know more. But the point of this public art program is to help people think differently about how we use public space to reflect our community. And for engagement, we've already started doing several focus groups and having conversations. We're calling them 5-minute pitches. And we're happy to reach out to any of your associations or organizations to do the same thing, basically telling people what the project is about, hearing from others and the expectations, and just asking some initial questions as we lead into December 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, which are going to be 8 special sessions where we bring people in to address those 5 issues that I spoke about earlier. They're on the right-hand side. So we are really going to focus down on these with guided questions in focus groups. And then on Saturday, we are going to be asking the community to come out to Pack Square proper and having a bit of a good time with some music and hot chocolate and celebrating the coming of the holidays. All this to say that we're putting our Community Advisory Committee together starting this week. The Community Advisory Committee is going to include members from a variety of city and county boards. Most of these boards have aligned interest, and the Downtown Commission is the most aligned of all of the boards and commissions. We're also asking some organizations and associations that don't have formal relationships with the city or county, but that are really important to us, making sure that we have a more diverse or broad group of voices that are at the primary table, talking to staff and talking to McAdams, the consultants, on a regular basis. So these folks are going to meet 3 to 5 times during the project. I think it's going to be 5 times, and I think that it's going to end up being about a 10 to 15 hour commitment from now until April 30th. There is a virtual kickoff meeting on October 31st, which is Halloween. It's at noon. And we have a link in this presentation, which is in your materials, that outlines what the role of those members are. And today, what I'm asking you to consider is that this Community Advisory Committee be an actual subcommittee of the Downtown Commission. And in addition to that, we're really asking you to name 3 members of the Downtown Commission that can serve on the Community Advisory Committee. The way that that works from a procedural manner is that the chair assigns those, since it's a subcommittee. So what you would do as a member, if you were interested, is reach out to Brian and let Brian know that you wanted to serve. But the second part really needs to be an agreement by the entire commission, which is the consideration that the Community Advisory Committee for this project could be a subcommittee of the Downtown Commission. I have said a lot. Now I'm looking for some feedback from you all and maybe some discussion, questions.
So to be clear, what we're going to do today is I'm going to make a motion that we form a subcommittee officially titled the Community Advisory Committee for the Pack Square Plaza Visioning Project. And then I'll be assigning three of us to that. So I've got both Stephen Lee Johnson and Ruth, who neither one of which are with us today, but they've both indicated interest in serving on that. I need at least one more, and if there's more than one more, then you can do rock, paper, scissors or something, and we'll figure it out from there. And then I also want to make clear that just because you're not on the CAC, because this is a subcommittee of the DTC, any recommendations that the subcommittee comes up with will come back to us for discussion. So just because you're not on the subcommittee doesn't mean you don't get to have a role in this project. And I think that's appropriate because that subcommittee, they'll advertise, and they are obviously working really hard to involve public input. But this is this commission itself will also serve as the kind of umbrella public comment and public input vehicle for the Community Advisory Committee. Does that make sense so far? And Stephanie, if I said any of that wrong, please let me know.
You didn't. You nailed it, and I can even underscore it by just saying another example or extension of what Brian's talking about is when it comes time for City Council review of the vision plan or vision document for Pack Square, it will start at the Downtown Commission. So it'll start in the public realm, out there for comment, but it'll be at the Downtown Commission first.
And this preliminary piece, I would see this, Stephanie said that it was, this is going to end in April, but that's this phase of it. There will be ongoing pieces that will continue. This is the preliminary to look at those 5 areas that Stephanie outlined. There will be a design piece. There will be other programming pieces that will continue. And I think that we would be looking at those in, as separate things as they go along. And we would continue to have input into those. So any comments or discussions? Do we need to have a free for all for the 3 spots? I am not surprised. Go ahead, Andrew.
To play John Boyle for a second, are we going to call this the pit of the square? Like this, I'm obviously really interested. This reminds me of my past work with the Haywood Page visioning team. I'd like to see like a lot of I think the winning ingredients from that process. Obviously the city's picked up and learned, robust public engagement, and an advisory and visioning team process before a capital project. I think those are all really strong because people have a lot of feelings about this site and they have a lot of utility for this site potentially as well. So I venture my name forward to be included with this. However, my crystal ball is going to be a little clearer on November 9th. So I am happy to take a back seat while my future role with the city is currently in flux, we'll say. So so I'm happy to serve as an alternate, perhaps.
Thank you, Andrew. Anyone else? Do we have anyone else who would like to serve on this? Again, you're looking at a 10 to 15 hour, 5 meetings, 2 to 2.5, 3 hours per meeting. A few other things, reviewing some materials. That's kind of the time engagement that's being requested. Are there anyone else that would like to serve on that? Okay, that was almost like in tandem. I can't tell. So I'm going to give that to Megan first, and then we'll go to Ricardo.
Okay, so yeah, I'm interested, but I'm also, like Andrew said, I'm willing to follow along in the process from a backseat kind of role if that's better. So just either way is fine.
Thank you.
I should also probably note that, Megan, you're likely to get an invitation
Okay.
for your role on the Downtown Association.
Okay, I wasn't sure where that stood. Thank you for that clarification.
Very good. Thank you. Ricardo, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm interested. I don't know if it's a bad thing to have 2 architects on it.
I'm not planning on serving. I think I would. My strong lean right now is definitely Stephen Lee. Ruth has been involved in several of these things before, and she has a connection to some historical. She's just got a deep understanding of the history of the city and a lot of this stuff that I think would honestly be pretty useful. So maybe that would work. Ricardo, is to have you'd have a landscape Well, I mean, everybody's bringing more than one thing to it, I think, honestly, and that's what we'd be looking for. And then, Andrew, I'm sensitive to your involvement in these types of projects before very successfully. But I also want to be sensitive to the election piece. So let me think about that a little bit. Is there anyone else that would like to serve? Going once, going twice. Then if Megan's going to get that, Andrew, you have no objection. I'm going to recommend Stephen Lee Johnson, Ruth Summers, and Ricardo Sejo as the three representatives, and we'll go that direction. And I really appreciate everyone's camaraderie, and you guys made this way easier than I thought it was going to be. Thank you. Thank you for that. I think I think, Andrew, I would expect you and I to have lots more opportunities for input. The way I see this process going, I don't think the community advisories committee's goal would be to solicit input, not to limit it or to control it necessarily. So I would expect all of us would have the ability to provide lots of input as the project proceeds, and the subcommittee's responsibility will be to report back to us as they go. Thank you, Sage. So I want to make that clear. We're going to have a lot of opportunity to engage with this process. So
yeah, and I remain as a resource for everyone involved.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Stephanie, do you need anything else? I can send you a formal response to that, but
Right.
I'll make notes.
I appreciate everyone's time, and for Stephen Lee, Ruth, who are not here, but Ricardo, you'll receive a welcome letter next week, and you have some other good folks that are on the team with you already too. So.
And one thing, Stephanie, we talked about this. There is continuity from key people who were on the actual Vance task force that are going to be engaged in the community advisory committee as well. Is that
That's
still
right.
correct?
So, yes.
Yeah.
So Ms. Aureline Simmons is on this community advisory committee, and she was on the Vance Monument Task Force. So, and there may or may not be other people as well. And then the other confirmed people are Katie Cornell from the Asheville Area Arts Council, and Erin Griffin, who's the chair of the African American Heritage Commission, and Catherine Mitchell, who does the African American Heritage Trail.
Very good. Thank you. I meant to make that connection earlier. So, and then, okay, very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other final kind of comments on that? Are we good to move on? Okay, actually, that's all our new business. We can move into the updates and reports, I believe. Since Stephen Lee is not here, I'll do the design review committee instead of making Robin do it. So we had a formal review of 34 South Lexington Avenue, just a exterior renovation. It was a fairly a small design review for that. We did an informal review of the project that we just looked at earlier today for the Astor Street, Aston and Sawyer micro housing project. That was our August meeting, I think. Am I doing this right? Yes. And then for the September meeting, we have a new member, Thomas McLaughlin, that joined us. And then we did an informal review for a pavilion behind 137 Biltmore Avenue, between those historic houses and the Lexington Avenue project. So we did an informal review for that. And I think that's it, right, guys? Yeah. Okay. And I think design review is continuing to get better. I think we're all settling into a more defined role as we go, and look forward to that process continuing. Updates on Asheville Downtown Association.
Good morning. I think I mentioned at our last meeting, our walkability study, which was performed in September. This is in conjunction with the city. Brian and Dana, I think you guys both volunteered with us. I put a call out to volunteers. I got like 25 people. It was amazing. We got to give people sort of small areas so they could really focus in. We're in the process of pulling that data together, and we'll schedule a follow-up meeting soon with the city's public works team to start talking about how to prioritize that. Maybe at our next meeting, I can show you a map and some of the data if that's of interest to everybody. We have been doing that every other year. There's a consideration for doing it every year since we had such an awesome group of volunteers. It really was pretty easy to get done. We just closed our mid-year, which is not really mid-year, I guess, at this point, third quarter issue survey, I guess we'll call it, on Monday. I have not had about 108 responses. I haven't had a chance to really dig into that data yet, but I'm pulling together a presentation for something next week. And then that data will be shared with both the city and county council and commission, as well as city and county managers and other staff. We have a candidate forum on Monday. I think I sent you guys an invitation to that earlier this week. We do have a few spots left for that. We have 5 of our 6 council candidates and both mayoral candidates confirmed. So this will be focused on downtown, and we do a roundtable formats. It's a little more like one-on-one, but we'll ask some questions that came out of the results and responses from the surveys that we've had of our council candidates. And then lastly, we have, I might have mentioned this too, we're bringing back the Building Our City speaker series. So these were pretty popular events back in 18 and 19. They went virtual during COVID, but we're back to bringing those in person. And Ruth is not here, but that is from support from the Grove Arcade Public Market Foundation. So thanks to Ruth for that. Our first event, and I can send you guys an invite if you haven't gotten one already, is Wednesday, November 2nd, and it is with Bernice Radel, who is the CEO and founder of a company called Buffalo in Buffalo, New York. And she's going to be talking about small scale infill development, which I think is an important piece to our housing conversation, and it helps build local wealth. So if you're interested in that, let me know, or I'll send an invitation around and you can register. Oh, Holiday Parade, November 19th. Big event, takes up all of downtown pretty much. So heads up to everybody. More information will be out soon on that, but it's a big event that does shut down a lot of streets in downtown, and a huge thanks to the city, especially the Asheville Police Department, for all the work that they're putting on the parade. We really appreciate it. That's all I have unless there's questions.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. And y'all should all sign up for the public, pedestrian survey. That was fun. Get to nitpick the city is always fun. Homeless initiatives, or are there any other comments for Megan on that? Okay. Megan, are you up again, or is Robin doing the homeless initiative report?
We've just been linking the report, and you can read it.
Okay, perfect.
You'd like.
Got it. All right. Public Space Management Task Force, Andrew, Dana.
I can chime in here. So the task force last met in June. I know that Andrew provided some updates at one of the meetings when I was out. We had planned on getting back together in October. That may end up being November. There's some overlap between their work and the Pack Square Visioning Advisory Committee for sure. But I think the Public Space Management Group definitely has a role to play in that process, as well as to provide feedback on progress that we're making on some other fronts. And I just wanted to I'm going to pull up this one slide from that June meeting to let you guys know where that group landed in recommending some priorities for the year ahead, and kind of recommending what their role is. So outdoor dining, applying lessons learned from the ABL Shares Space program and looking at improvements to standards, and a long-term parklet or streetery program. So staff is moving forward on that work, and will be hopefully pulling the Public Space Management Committee together. I think November will be good timing as a check-in and to get some feedback on where we're at with that. Roadway utilization, the group is interested in looking at opportunities for sharing roadways for pedestrian activation, business success, and safer multimodal transportation. So as part of that work, providing input on Pack Square Plaza, having the opportunity to provide input on upcoming capital projects and roadway projects, and other possibilities for tactical uses and streetscape planning. Also, and I think you guys are aware, we have some ARPA funds to move forward with the public restroom facility in the public space just next to the Rankin Garage on the College Street side. So the group is interested in providing input on that, both from a public space management perspective, I think, as well as from the perspective of offering this public restroom facility, and interest in street and sidewalk lighting. So I just want this Downtown Commission group to be aware of that landed on the task force list, because I know that has come up a lot from the Downtown Commission, specifically with regards to development review and the lighting considerations that the city's looking at in the public realm. I will note that there aren't resources dedicated to that work at this time. It's not a current project that staff is working on, but just want to keep it on the radar and let you all know that that the group was interested in considering what could be done there. So I will stop sharing. So stay tuned, for probably a doodle poll to get something scheduled in November.
Great. Thanks, Dana. I'm looking forward to working with you on that in November, or potentially transitioning away from working on that with you in November. We will see, but it'll be nice to pick that back up, and welcome back. I'm glad. Nice to see you back in the office.
Thanks. I think
Okay.
I'm up again.
Yeah, I think you
Here
just
we go.
roll on. Mhm.
Let me pull this report up. Right. You all heard about Pack Square Plaza visioning, so I won't go into that, but I did provide a link here. We have some input opportunities up on the website, kind of some broad questions about how you use Pack Square, and some opportunities for some kind of broad feedback. We're going to continue to expand those feedback opportunities over the next couple months.
Dana, was I supposed to do a motion to establish a subcommittee and vote? I completely didn't do
No.
that. Do we have to do a vote for a subcommittee?
I think that that's a good idea to do.
Don't you? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I interrupt this to do
Yes.
that real quick? Let me make a motion and get a second and do all that. I'm so sorry. I will make a formal motion. I move that the Downtown Commission establish a subcommittee for the Pack Square Plaza Visioning Project, a community advisory committee specifically, and that we appoint Stephen Lee Johnson, Ruth Summers, and Ricardo Sejo as members of that subcommittee.
I'll second, Megan.
Thank you. Let me run through the folks real quick then. So sorry. Andrew.
Aye.
Thank you. Tal.
Aye.
Kimberly.
Aye.
Thank you. I'm an aye. Robin.
Aye.
Megan.
Aye.
Ricardo.
Aye.
And then that's all that's here right now. Okay. That motion passes. I'm so sorry, Dana, to interrupt. I just completely forgot. Kimmy, go ahead.
Just want to say thanks, everyone. I have to hop off. Bye.
See you soon.
Thanks for catching that. I think that was a good idea. Okay. So also just want to make sure you all are aware of the Art in the Heart Temporary Public Art Program. There have been a few pieces up, and there will continue to be more throughout the end of the year and into early 2023. So check them out and give your feedback. There's actually a tab on the public input page to give feedback on the Art in the Heart installations specifically, but we'll talk more about those December 1st, 2nd, and 3rd as part of those major engagement events as well. And South Slope, South Side Vision Plan, that was scheduled to go to council. It's gotten pushed back to November. It may end up getting pushed to December, but just want to keep that on the radar for you all. Staff received feedback on the draft plan and has been making some changes to it and is continuing to meet with community members and get some final input before bringing that plan to City Council. Cox Avenue Complete Street. So as outlined in the South Slope Vision Plan, and I've linked to a section in that here, staff is continuing to move forward with the design process to redesign Cox Avenue to be a green Main Street. And just also wanted to note that the city applied for tourism product development funds to be able to do construction on that redesign when we get to that point. And I've linked to some more information there. So we expect that design process to, or a contract with the design and engineering firm probably to go to council in January of 2023. And that formal design process will follow. And there will be public engagement as part of that process. Also, I hope that I forwarded this to you all, but staff has a new streetscape plan requirement for development projects, and it's not, doesn't involve any code changes, but it is just a tool to ensure that we're getting the details that we ask for and look for when it comes to design elements that impact the public realm. So I've provided some more information on that. Just want to be sure that we are getting the best outcomes possible for projects that impact the public realm. College patent bike lanes, I know there's interest in this, and transportation staff has come to the Downtown Commission at a couple points. They are planning to return to the Downtown Commission in November to present updates to that design plan and ask for your feedback. So just want to make you all aware that that is coming. Carter and Patton Stormwater Project. So a contract was approved by City Council. I think that was in August. And work is going to begin at the beginning of November, kind of on the downhill areas, and will continue to move up towards Patton Avenue, where it will be mid-January at the earliest. So I've mentioned that there are some anticipated impacts of that work, some lane closures and things. So I just want to keep you guys posted on that, particularly as it reaches Patton Avenue. Andrew.
Yes, is that project, is that going to interact with the development project at the corner of Hilliard and Klingman? Because I know that that project is also over some of the storm drains there, and I just wonder if there's any interaction between those two pieces, because they seem to be adjacent or possibly overlapping.
I don't think there's overlap on that project specifically. I know there's been coordination, a lot of coordination over the past few years with adjacent property owners where there are overlaps and impacts. I can double check on that. And I don't have that map in front of me, but it is available on the project page. So it's possible. I don't know for sure. If at some point you all want our stormwater staff to come speak more about that project, I'm sure they'd be happy to do so.
Thank you.
Advisory board realignment. So next steps on that is that the working group that had been formed with community representatives and board representatives, they're working on a survey that will go to all board members as well as past board members to get feedback on how boards and commissions could be updated to better reflect the goals that we have for them being more strategic, effective, and inclusive. So I haven't seen the survey yet, but I'd look out for that. And then we expect to have analysis of the survey in early 2023, and that will inform next steps. Talked about development project updates and design review committee that meets next week. City council meetings, just provided a link to future agendas. Those are posted now in advance, the draft items for the next 8 weeks. So sometimes those change, but just want to give you guys the link to that. And other engagement opportunities I have also included, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
No questions. I think we can move on into informal discussion, future agenda items. I don't know that we need to continue to discuss the design review process per se, unless anyone has something specifically they want to talk about. Anything on that? Okay. I threw a little bullet point on here on staffing, and I'm referring specifically to this is a fair amount of buzz going on in the design community right now, is that I think building development services, building inspections, building safety, they're down roughly 20%. So they're operating at 80%. I think planning is down 2 to 3 positions. They're down. It's really apparent in design review times right now. And I know this is not just something that happens. It's not just our municipality. It's happening in a lot of municipalities. But we're seeing overloaded staff. This goes into obviously the discussion about the advisory board revamp and everything else, because we've just got staff stretched pretty thin in a lot of different areas in a lot of different ways, and it is impacting the city's ability to just to perform in a variety of areas. And so Sage is not here. I just wanted to go ahead and bring that up, that's something I think council needs to be deeply aware of. I see it, I think you see it honestly in some public safety issues. We've already had discussions about APD's ability to patrol and do things. I'm seeing it across the board, basically, in city staff right now. I think this goes, Parks and Rec, I'm just seeing it kind of all over the place. And I don't know what our ability to kind of affect changes as a downtown commission. I'm just, I'm beginning to sound the alarm a bit, that this is something I think the city needs to take a good hard look at. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, I just want to agree with you. In my recent travels across the city, it's something that I'm hearing from, and I know that the sort of public narrative is focused on sort of one particular department that is suffering staffing issues. And I simply don't see it that way. I think that there's a much bigger conversation that plays in not just to how just the city of Asheville staffing, but also just a national labor shortage in general, and
That's
why
right.
that may be occurring and why it may be more pronounced here in Asheville due to the conditions of our city. So I think that the more useful narrative to the people of the city is a more global one about the nature of staffing shortages across all departments across the entire city, rather than just focusing on one department. So I appreciate that perspective and that look.
Well, it's one that I can see. We've seen 2 key significant figures within the planning department move to Woodfin. So we're getting poached, and we need to go to war with Woodfin, I guess. Anyways, it's not just salary. It's the housing cost. It's the ability to move up within, there's a variety of reasons I've heard for people, moving positions. You guys know this, and it's not just APD or anything like that. It's a systemic, and it's not just the city of Asheville, Buncombe County, Henderson County. There's a lot of different municipalities dealing with this. We're dealing with it in the private sector. So I think we just need to have we need to recognize that it's an issue, and it's impacting the city's ability to deliver service. And that we, as a downtown commission, we should be concerned with that and want to try to give council some kind of feedback. Hey, this is a thing, and what are you doing, and what can we do? What can we do? I don't know. I'm just starting to raise it. So there you go. I don't know that we need to talk about it hugely. I just want to make sure we start talking about it.
Question, can we pass a motion to make sure that there is a discussion about it?
You know what, Tal, let's do this. Let's keep it on our, I'll make it a formal agenda item maybe for next week, and maybe our next meeting, and maybe we can have some numbers on where the city is across different departments, and how that's affecting. We can even start to have a discussion how that's affecting the city's ability to deliver, services within the downtown, and we can make it a downtown issue, and talk about it from that perspective, and how we compare to, I don't know, Henderson County, Buncombe County, our immediate area. But I keep up with enough things that I know this is not just a city of Asheville issue. This is an issue that, honestly, I mean, go to your favorite restaurant. Everybody's struggling to get people to work right now. So it's not just a city of Asheville issue, but I think there are some particular things within the city of Asheville proper, as an institution, that is affecting their ability to hire and retain the kind of staff that we need to deliver the services that we need. I will say that. I'd like to know more. So thank you.
Can we ask for a speaker to come join us? And
yeah. If I make it
that way.
Yeah, if I make it a something, this, I might actually get to talk to Ben Woody, since he's been wearing 4 hats, and that's honestly, that's one of the things, right? So Ben has been serving as interim assistant manager while also continuing in his position as development services. What is his actual thing? Anyway, what is his? Is he head of?
He was just named as permanent assistant city manager.
See, I'm behind.
Has been, that was just yesterday. He also has been serving as development services director, so head of the department.
Yeah, so maybe we can, get Ben or someone like that from the city manager's office to talk to us about staffing and what's going on and how to address it.
I just want to say internal promotion is a positive sign to this discussion, though, I think. So,
100%. And that's been one of the things that I've heard staff over the years say that it has been difficult, is that the lack of promoting within, and the ability to move around has limited things. So that probably is a good sign, because I would have hated to lose Ben. He's been an asset in development services. So hate to lose him in development services, but anyway. Okay, thank you. Yeah, we'll make that an issue. Regarding our next meeting falls on Veterans Day, on the 11th, and so Dana suggested moving it to the 18th. Does anyone have a huge issue with moving that to the 18th? Megan?
I won't be able. The parade is the next day. Sorry. I'm our only staff person. I just won't, but don't move it on account of that, or don't not move it on account of that.
Okay.
I won't be able to join either on the 18th.
Okay. Dana, we can just maybe we can just send out something and ask if anybody can do that and go from there.
Sure, we can do a doodle poll if you guys would like to look at.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Let's do that. Make sure we can at least get a quorum and go from there. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Tal. All right. Any other items? It is 11:03. I'm almost on time. Then I move we adjourn. Is there a second? All in favor?
I'll second.
Or
whatever.
Robin seconds. All in favor? You may log off and we will talk soon. Thank you.
Good morning,
Bye, everybody.